Beasley Jr. in conversation with Sadiq Moody Jihad to talk about Mr. Beasley's book, Deep Rooted Gangsterdom Volume 1. I'm Shauna Sherman, manager of the African American Center, where we are right now. There's, many people. I'm sorry, I just ran. So there's a lot. I want to thank, there's a lot of people behind the scenes that help make this program happen. Thank you to our media services for setting up our mics. Our janitorial staffs for setting up the room. Thanks to Kevin Epps for telling us about Mr. Beasley's book and encouraging us to invite him here. We're so grateful that you're here. Before we get started, I want to let you all know we're broadcasting from the area known as San Francisco, which is on the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples of the San Francisco Peninsula. As the original peoples of this land, the Ramaytush Ohlone have never ceded, lost, nor forgotten their responsibilities as the caretakers of this place. We recognize that we benefit from living, working, and learning on their traditional homeland. And as uninvited guests, we affirm their sovereign rights as First Peoples and wish to pay our respects to the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush community. Because we're in the African American Center, we also adapted the ancestral acknowledgement created by the African American Reparations Advisory Committee in San Francisco. And it states, we honor the gifts, resilience, and sacrifices of our Black ancestors who toiled the land, built the institutions that established this nation's wealth and freedom, and survived anti-Black racism despite never being compensated nor fully realizing their own sovereignty. We acknowledge this exploitation of not only labor, but of our humanity, and through this process, we are working to repair some of the harms done by public and private actors. Because of their work, we are here and will invest in the descendants of their legacy. I don't know how many of you have been in this space before. This is the African American Center has been in this building since 1996, dedicated to, highlighting the culture and history of African Americans. We have lots of things happening here, and we'll close out the year with our Kwanzaa program on December 28th. But sign up for our newsletter if you like to hear what's going on in the center. I'm just going to read the brief bios, and then we'll get started to our program. We've all been anxiously waiting to hear from our author today. James Beasley Jr. was born with gangster roots running 3 generations deep in his family from Hunters Point, the epicenter of San Francisco's Black underworld. As a hustler from the start, Beasley dove headfirst into the cocaine trade when crack cocaine emerged, determined to forge his own path. Beasley created a powerful crew called the B Team to rival the A Team, which had been established by other family members. His story spans from the gritty floors of housing projects to the lavish suites of penthouses. It takes you from rundown drug dens and street wars to secret stash houses, $1 million homes, the Grammys with the Jacksons heavyweight champion fight, and the birth of Death Row Records. The path he has traveled has been, However, betrayed by outsiders and charged with federal conspiracy, Beasley was eventually sentenced to 30 years in prison, along with other members of his crews. The path he traveled, marked by extreme integrity, was one meant to break men, and we can hear all about it in his book and in our conversation today. Sadiq Moody Jihad has for more than a decade helped organizations in sustaining and perfecting the paradigm of their target population and delivery of services, advocacy, and grant funding. He has worked in the fields of restorative justice, victim rights, and advocacy, social justice, reentry services, didactic group therapy, and harm reduction. He founded, designed, and developed the San Francisco Sheriff's Department's in-custody treatment program, Roads to Recovery, is a founding member of the Five Keys Charter School, and has received proclamations from the California State Senate as a change agent, and recently from the San Francisco Board of Supervisors as community leader and activist. Sadiq is a diehard 49er faithful since the days of John Brody, Kezar Stadium, and the heydays of Joe Montana and Super Bowls. Please welcome our guest today. Yes.
James, how you doing today? Good yourself. I'm trying to turn towards you, trying to face away from the public. So it's a lot to unpack. James Beasley, it's a lot to unpack. So let's start. Okay. So who is James Beasley today?
Who was.
Who was. Good point. Thank you for correcting.
James Beasley was a guy from San Francisco housing project known as Double Rock, who had very strong family roots in San Francisco. I went to private school. I grew up in a Christian home. My grandfather was a Baptist ministry. But I decided to do something else with my life. I was tired of school. At this particular time, cocaine had hit what we know as Black Ghetto. Okay, we can go on back to what we learned today and know today is from Narayan Costa. Okay, he was responsible for bringing cocaine to Black Ghetto. So I took that path to go and head first, something that I didn't know nothing about, but ultimately became very, very well good at it. What made me do it was, again, like I said, I didn't want to go to school anymore. I wanted to do something different. And for my child, I was in the process of becoming a first-time father. So I had a cousin tell me, hey, man, Pampers and milk, and wear your ass out. You got to come up with something else to do. I don't know what it is, but you got to come up with something else. So I kind of mirrored some of my older family members, my dad, great uncles and cousins. So that's why I say, that it's 3 generations deep. So it was kind of, some people say you didn't have a choice, but I did have a choice. I don't want people to think that I didn't. I did, but I chose that path. I began selling cocaine, on a very, very small scale. $10, something that was affordable to the masses. It wasn't $2,000, it was $10. Everybody can come up with $10. That was my thinking. Baskin Robbins spoon. You go to Baskin Robbins today and say, hey, let me taste that right there. You don't use this little spoon. So that was my theory. Taste this right here. So that's how I got started. And so I guess best to answer your question is James Beasley was one of the largest cocaine dealers in the Bay Area.
And who is he now?
Today, I'm a very successful entrepreneur who serves his community and the Bay Area, Northern California, and foreclosures. I am the #1 foreclosure guy in Northern California. I pat myself on the back. I'm the foreclosure king of Northern California today, where I help people to try to get in the homes. I buy them, I refurbish them, sell them at a lower price to, if it's black or brown people, I try to help them become first-time homeowners. I even got a program where I call it shared equity, where a lot of people work and subpar credit, not enough for a down payment. I come in, help them with a down payment, and we both own the property jointly.
I wanted to ask you 2 questions now, James. I'm just going to ask you, where did you get that skill set? But when you were in, how much time did you actually do incarcerated?
27 years.
27 years. And what were you doing during that?
Most people were watching BET and watching ESPN Sports. And I was going to school and studying because I knew that I couldn't come back to my community and let my community down for the second time by bringing more poison to the community. So I wanted to come in and try to help the community. So I perfected real estate. I knew about it before I left, but I was young and I wanted to be able to do it to help the masses, not just myself.
So how did you go about that? Did you read?
A lot of studying, going to school. And, prison is, you get with your crowd.
Yeah.
If you want to learn how to sell dope, you go hang out with the dope dealers. You want to learn how to rob banks, go hang out with the bank robbers. You want to scam, go hang out with the scammers. So I wanted to learn real estate more. So I hung out with people that did real estate.
And that helped you build your skill to go to be able to come home and revitalize the community, revitalize some people too.
Yes.
Yeah. You had a short run, James. We talked about it the other day. Your short run was 19 to 26. That's 7 years. But the impression that you left on everybody, the impression that you left in the community, it was impactful, shall we say?
Yeah.
And so, how do you respond to that now?
Well, I like to say that, I'm probably getting ahead of probably your questions. I know we've been around each other, I kind of know. I'm tired of people thinking that I'm glorifying the life by what I wrote in this book. I'm not glorifying the life. Read the book and then you can come back and say, this guy's not glorifying this by no means. It's actually a deterrent if you read it, because, we use social media and different things to promote it, to attract traffic to it. But that's not the message in the book. The message in the book, don't try what I did. Do something different with your life.
So I know the other day we had a conversation with Dr. Marion Jones, who is one of the premier clinicians for San Francisco, but also she runs a quarter billion.
Yeah, take the M and put the
Right. Quarter billion health agency. And you talked to her for the first time about your anxiety when you were in jail and the things that you had to deal with, even though you had a family and stuff like that. Can you talk a little bit more about just your coping mechanisms?
I didn't know what it was, because I was not knowledgeable of what I was going through. Mind you, I went to jail at 26 years old. So it was a lot that I still didn't know, so it was trial by error and learning, myself and the human body and the mind in prison, and I had become a hypochondriac. I don't know if any of you guys know what a hypochondriac is. Hypochondriac is the person that thinks everything's wrong with them. And it's really his mind. It's not his body, it's his mind. And I started going to the doctor. And I went to the doctor 45 times in 60 days. And everything that I saw on TV, that's me. And I'd go to the doctor. And they said, hey, ain't nothing wrong with this guy, I'm referring to psychologist. And I was offended. And I called my grandmother and I would talk to her about it. And old folks called it, it's your nerves. But what we learned today is not your nerves. It's mental illness, it's wellness. So I went and talked to them and they examined me and so nothing's wrong with him. Nothing's wrong with him. Physically, so I had to go back and replay what was and what I had been doing up to that point. And it was exercise. Simple exercise. We did get off the couch, go walk, go run, go do something with your body. My body was like this all the time. It was tense. And when I worked out, I was, limber. I was a little limber. So I went back to doing it. And I was okay after that.
Talked also about the other night we were talking and we were going through questions and stuff like that, and just some things you had been revealing to people around your anxiety. And you also talked about how you were able to break up the monotony in 27, 28 years. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, some people say I'm too smart for my own good, and people, you could transfer every 18 months in federal prison. And then they stopped it. They said it was too costly to transfer people. So what I did is I found programs that other institutions had that this institution didn't have. And that enabled me to transfer. And what was good about the transferring for me, it was like starting all over again. I broke the time up, as they say. You know, it's going to a new prison, meeting new people, not being around the same people, being stagnated. So I would go to a new prison, meet new people, and take up a college course, so forth that they had. I was able to earn my AA. I went and became a personal trainer, wastewater management, sports management course. So I just picked anything that that this institution didn't have that enabled me to transfer.
I wanted to ask you too that what was your intel coming through all that time to be able to change and say the real estate was going to work, what's going to work? Because you remember when you first came home, people talked about that's antiquated, that's not going to work, and this is not going to work, and those things. So where'd you get that intel?
Well, I kind of went with history. Historically, real estate does this. We had one time, I think in the early 2000s,
Right.
The bubble burst is what they called it. It was bad paper. It wasn't real estate, it was bad paper. The loans were bad. The real estate wasn't bad. It was inflated prices on real estate. But, Black and brown didn't know this. They just knew, hey, I'm getting a house. They went in a house, and next thing they know, they had $2,000 a month payments, and they had 23, then 26, then 28, 31. And now they priced out. But you did nothing wrong. It was the people behind you that wrote that loan, that wrote that bad paper.
Inflated prices.
Exactly.
So where did your family come in?
My family came in from the support that I had, because I was dibbling dabbling in real estate before I left. And a strong foundation of mine came from my Uncle Wooly and my grandmother.
So, and then whenever you would transfer out of those institutions every 18 months, 24 months, what happened to your mentor? Because you say you had a mentor, but you haven't talked about it a lot. But you met someone and you and him spent a lot of time together. So,
well, we would stay in contact with each other, through writing and stuff.
So, how many years before you were touched down that you started creating your now plan?
At least 15 years.
At least 15?
At least, because I knew what I was going to do. And it's strange and funny to me today when people said, oh man, this dude is crazy. This dude coming home, talking about he's going to buy $1 million houses. He's going to help people in housing. He's coming out here with this old 1970 stuff. It ain't going to work.
Did you run it down your family? What you were going to do?
Some,
yeah.
And I mean that's where it came. That's where a lot of it came from. They came. I knew again. I didn't want to create any more havoc on my community by bringing more poison in. I wanted to do something different.
So, what's the challenges that you've been having since you got home? Emotionally, psychologically, financially. I'm sure you're never going to share that part, but, but where are you? Where are you with your challenges, and what has been the norm now that wasn't back then in terms of people, society, rules, morals, stuff like that?
People don't have them today. They don't have principles. They don't have morals. It's about me, and that's it. And and I'm speaking from a African American man, and we don't help each other. It's sad. We don't help each other at all. Even with me coming in, like I said, trying to help, I still get a lot of backlash. Why are you trying to help the community? Leave them alone. Go elsewhere and do stuff else. Buy stuff other places. Don't buy stuff here. And I buy what the deal is. So that's what I get a lot of.
Have your heart been broken a couple times since you've been home in terms of your community, in terms of your friends,
Yes.
in terms of your family?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I was in a situation a couple of months ago, and my loans were called on, by my lender. And I went to a couple of people that I'd actually helped and put in position. One guy, you know, came to Sadiq and said, "Hey man, I love James so much. He helped me, man, and with his advice and guidance, I've gotten $25 million worth of city contracts." I went to the brother and asked the brother to help me. Hey man, I make an investment. Just make an investment with me. I don't want you to just give me anything. I don't want you to make a loan. I want you to make an investment. And I would even ask you this had you told my brother that I was responsible for you receiving $25 million in federal contracts, which I didn't know. And he turned me down. Brother turned me down. Luckily for me, I thought that I was going to file bankruptcy. And I filled out all the papers and everything to file bankruptcy to save everything that I had built since I've been home. And I'm talking about $10 million worth of real estate. So I'll be plain and clear. Okay? And I needed $1.2 million to save it. And he didn't give it to me. And I was on the verge of filing bankruptcy to save it. And I'm across from the courthouse. The courthouse closed at 4:30, and I get a call from my lender at 2:45. And he said, "Man, I'm sorry. I apologize. I shouldn't have called your loans. I'm going to reinstate your loans." And I went back to the brother, and I said, just like I told you, things was going to work themselves out. And showed it to him. So that was probably the biggest disappointment since I've been home.
A friend of yours, I say she's your friend, but my son's mother used to tell me about you years ago. I know you as running into Alt Plaza and scaring everybody out with but $1.35. It's like, not this cat over here, right? So Audrey used to always tell me about you being so brilliant. And in your brilliance, talking about your brilliance, did you conceive that you were going to do a half your life in penitentiary? Were you prepared for it at all?
Not at all.
Were you realistic about it at all?
Not at all.
Because you calculate everything. So why didn't you calculate that?
Because I kept saying, that, some law would change or I would win my appeal.
Okay.
Because I hadn't done what they say I done.
Right.
The government claims that I sold cocaine and my money came from cocaine. But I'm a man who's never been caught with any cocaine. And nobody has ever stood up and said, I bought cocaine from him. I saw it with cocaine. But yet and still, I went to prison.
So what was your charge?
Tax evasion.
Give us a number, because you always remember the numbers too.
What?
What was the code, US code on that? What's the US code on that?
It's in the book.
Okay, you guys have to check it, because normally when Tim and I talk, they always give me these codes, so just so you guys know. And so now, James.
Well, let me say this.
Go ahead.
So part of the lesson in the book is federal codes.
Right.
So you can know what you're up against when you think about committing a crime. You can go in my book and say, well, should I really commit that crime? Let me see, James said if I commit that crime, I might get X amount of time. So maybe I might not should do that. Let me do something else.
So now you're home. I think now you understand more about restorative justice and, giving back to the community to be able to do it. Has there been an easy way to try to engage other folks to participate in what you participate in? Because you got a lot of different opinions about different things, especially about the book.
So you want to get to the meat.
Love the meat.
But here's the thing.
Okay.
People have said, why did you write this book? That's why I started off and said, the book is not glorifying myself. It's not glorifying the game. It's my life, the way I lived it through my eyes. And I'm just sharing it with you. If Bernie Madoff wrote a book about his life, say he's glorifying. Charles Keaton y'all probably know Charles Keaton. Charles Keaton is one of the,
Lincoln say,
yeah, SNL, who stole all his money through SNL.
right,
Michael Milken,
right,
when they wrote their books,
right.
you know, you wouldn't say that they're glorified. You know, but that's again, that's the perception of black and brown.
You've been able to attach, sometimes when we go away in a month or away 2 years, but you ain't gone almost 3 decades. How has your family came together, and what's right now? What is the good? What's the pros? What's the cons?
Um, the pros is that I still have a family, and so many people don't have. And my family is supportive of me as they always have been. My elders were very supportive of me. You know, my strength came from my grandmothers, both grandmothers. So my strength came from two women.
Yeah.
You know, to today. You know, my mother. You know, my children.
Yeah, yeah, especially her. So that's a plus too. So
Yeah,
moving forward, like what's the next steps for you in terms of telling your story? Do you have a sequel? Do you
I do. It's a 3-part. It's a 3-part. So one thing that's never ever been told that I know of, somebody might can help me out. People talk about going to prison, but people don't talk about what went on behind those walls. Those are secrets. My daughter says, "Dad, you know where all the bones are buried." You know, so that's my next book. How I actually did the 27 years.
Right.
What went on in prison?
One of the things I've noticed about you, James, you're a good storyteller. We talk for hours. You just tell me different stories. Like, well, no, you got to remember this, this. But you fill in me. That's why I said sometimes the penitentiary has that intel that no one else has,
Right.
and where it comes from. You'll be surprised how many people tell on each other in the penitentiary, dry snitching.
Exactly.
To use that colloquialism, they talk about
Yeah.
other people's business, other people who they're sleeping with. All
You know,
these
people
different-
tell for a sandwich.
Yeah.
People tell for a piece of chicken.
Yeah.
You know, some of the brothers out here, they've been in the federal system. They know. You know, he tell for the police to let him out with 30 pieces of chicken. You know, so he go to unit and sell it. But you didn't tell in court.
I think that coming into this type of arena allows you to be able to tell it from a different perspective. Denise and I were talking about that last night. It's like being able to come into the public library and be accepted around your lifestyle, not just as an African American. We're not trying to glorify gangsterism, but I think people need to know what they're getting into. A lot of folks don't. A lot of folks haven't gave, as you use the metaphor, the meat on the bone enough. They talk about these different scamps or whatever, but you've been connected to some heavyweight folks, so they say. And I say that not to put anybody down, but then all the time you were the heavyweight behind the heavyweights, and now you're getting what kind of reception now from those heavyweights that are still living?
They want me to help them.
They're not doing as well.
No.
And yeah, you were fortunate in a lot of ways.
I mean, I have a good support team.
Yeah.
That's why I say, criminality runs 3 generations deep.
Right.
When people talk about choices, I had a choice. Most people didn't really get, but I did.
Yeah. So for me, this is fun. So it's really not an interview. But I want to open up the floor to anyone that want to ask James any questions or give him any input or whatever. There's Shauna back there too.
Yeah, I have Mike here.
JB,
How you
always
doing?
good seeing you. Always good seeing you. You're inspiration to me. I just want to just touch on what are some of the challenges that you still see that are happening in the community that you wish you can put your hands around a little more.
More support from the city. I mean, I'm San Francisco, born and raised, but I'm from Bayview Hunters Point, so it's always Bayview Hunters Point first with me.
You set tripping?
Gotta pick your home first.
Two part. So do you wish more people would embrace the part of the story that you really want to relate is to don't do what I do? Are you seeing that part?
I think it's coming more from the younger people who I'm really, that's my target. You know, my contemporaries, as they would say, people my age, you know, my generation, you know, those are the ones that I'm glorifying the game. You know, it's not my fault because of your shortcomings.
Thank you.
Kevin?
Thank you.
JB, thank you very much for being here. I had an interesting question. So I reposted your story and sent it to a lot of folks on the East Coast, in terms of some brothers in Brooklyn, which has a long, New York has a history of, you know, gangsters,
Right.
in terms of the media. So a lot of folks are drawn to that part. You know what I mean? Just from my talking about it, that's a big draw. And I think we're in an era where I don't think they could ever accomplish what you accomplished.
Right.
Can you talk about, being, I mean, that, even though, like you say, I'm changing, this book is the different message, but really the draw is people like, man, this dude was balling. This dude was running around with millions of dollars. And I hear those conversations. So can you elaborate on how, what do you say to these young people? You know what I'm saying? Because you was a young brother that was ahead of your time. What do you say to communicate to them to really help them get it? Because you can talk about it, but if you don't, and I think you carry enough weight to be able to have and communicate that effectively, because they crashing out. They want to be king. They want to be James Beasley, man. They want to be that JB sliding through and they sit, ahead of, diamonds and just glorified because the rap game has sort of conscried it. These dudes not living their life. They're rapping your life.
Right.
You know what I mean? How does that connect
Well,
with how you try to challenge that?
That's why I kind of push and pull forward with the real estate. Because the one thing that I hear a lot, what do you think I should do, OG? What do you recommend? I barely know how to read. It's too late to go to school. You're telling me don't sell drugs like you did. Give me something else to do. Give me some other hope. Give me something to hold on to. And because we have no more trade schools. There's nothing for these guys to do. So that's why I'm pushing for home ownership, and perhaps I can get some assistance from the city, the government, to teach these classes on how to become a home, or how to be an investor, if you can make money. But that's what I had to offer.
So James, can you also talk about a little bit about our conversation with Dr. Jones and that side of the people don't know. And we do have a proposal for funds.
Yeah.
We have that in right now with a couple of lenders. So we'll see what happens.
So-
Grantees
So
go.
Sadiq is from the Fillmore district, and me from Bayview, Hunters Point. So he said, Central. But he was over in Oakland working with a guy that's a good friend of both of us, Mr. Fat. And it was therapy. So I said to Sadiq, that's kind of sort of some of the things that I went through. So many people are suffering from it, but I'm willing to talk about it. We need that in San Francisco. Let's start this over in San Francisco. Let's give these brothers a safe haven to come in and talk about it where they're not ashamed, where they can talk to somebody and get some help, because it's really stopping them from doing a lot of things because they're not willing to talk about it. Yeah.
I think the biggest thing with everybody is when we talk about it, is when we talk about it with each other on whether we could trust who we talking to about it. Because talking to people about your problems, you don't want people to throw your problems back in your face, especially in our community. We don't like to be disgraced as much as we have a lot of pride and honor and respect. So our time is valuable. So for us, I think we just want a like direct answer. Everybody just want a personal answer where it's like, I think the answer's spiritual.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm a little late, you know.
No, you're
No,
Yeah, on point.
Come on.
And I think that's what you're bringing.
Yes.
So I think everyone here is enlightened enough to know that it's a personal, it's like everybody's supposed to push it in their own way. So like where you say you're willing to teach and you require next person to, let's say, empower you to teach, and then the next individuals will see you being empowered. They'll come to learn from you because they know they'll be empowered when you teach. It's like, it's a community thing for real, where it's like, it's not just talk.
Right.
So then the trust, you know, once we see these actions start manifesting, you know, and it starts to come to fruition and it's physical, and it's like, oh, okay, nah, this is what it is.
They got some new buzzwords now just coming from trust. They call them trust agents. That's why his brand is so important to be able to do that. That's what worked with Fab over there initially. Fab is not the curator of it, you know, and then you got some therapists in there too. Deanna and them in here too. They got their doctorates and stuff like that, come from the community and was trust agents too. To be aboard. A couple of folks that are trust agents in their own right and have their own brand have now came together because people trust that. So they bring that with that and start asking those questions and engage them. So you're hitting on the note. So it's a good thing. Thank you. Jonathan, over here.
Excuse me.
Hi, my friend.
Doing.
I love you.
I love you too.
Congratulations on
Thank
this
you.
book. I'm so excited for you. Now that the book is out, what do you expect?
I expect people to learn something from it. Biggest thing, of course, is, you know, what I push, you know, some of the things that was said in my house, I'm sure was said in yours. Don't do as I do, do as I say.
Yeah.
James, I just want to say that, you know, we go way back, but even though you were not here in 2000 when my son was born, you had an impact on how I chose to raise him. I did pull him out of the school system in San Francisco, put him in private school, tried to kind of steer him in the right way. But he's now a college graduate with a political science major at Howard, minor in African American
Good for you.
studies. He knows you.
Okay.
I mean, we've talked about you for the past 20-some years. And I'm here because I want to get this book. And I want to give it to him. He's in Baltimore now.
Okay.
But you made an impact on people that you haven't even met.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to say that, like, thank you. And he's coming back, y'all. He's coming back to the city. He's very passionate about, that's his study right now.
Okay.
He's coming back to the city. He's going to do some good work.
Thank you.
Denise, did you want to say something? Anything? You can have it.
Basically, did you find writing the book, did you find that it was cathartic, that
It was what?
cathartic, that you purged a lot of stuff out of you, got stuff up and out of? Because you know, we only sick as our secrets, so when you shine the light on stuff, you know. So when writing the book, were you able to get all that gunk up out of you?
No. You know.
Still a work in progress.
Yeah, I'm a work in progress.
So Jay, do you feel offended that the people, some folks, a lot of folks still perceive you as what you was about, or what they felt that you was about?
I do. I was having this conversation with,
You're trying now
yeah,
to change your life, to try to be for people.
right. I was telling my manager on the ride over, I said, man, I'm sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of being labeled as a drug dealer. I'm not a drug dealer. Okay. My mother gets really upset about it. My son didn't go to jail for selling no drugs. He went to jail for tax evasion. A lot of people don't know that. You know, but you know, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a businessman today. That's who I am today. That's who James Beasley is today. Yesterday, I was somebody else. But for us African Americans, we the ones that seem not to be able to let go of each other's past.
Anyone else?
I don't see any more questions.
She has a game.
Other questions?
Can you chime in a little bit? So I always introduce Jamise, I always introduce Jamise as the CEO. So maybe James could talk a little bit about Jamise and her role, and then Jamise, you could, you know, do your thing.
I'm shy.
She's shy. She's shy. She's shy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a quick question.
Okay.
Before you take your own shot. About the real estate. Like, can you give any tips or any type of thing that somebody is trying to get? I guess the biggest thing is obviously cash money. Well, that's not
Right.
right.
You know, that's why we started, me and my daughter, Jamise, we started the shared equity program. And shared equity is we match funds, you know. We have our own family to take care of. So, and try to empower. So we can't give all the money. You know, loans in your name, we only take 50% of the equity when the place is sold. You got basically 18 months, 24 months to pay us back, or 50%. And that's why I say we need the city, because the city has the money to do it. They have the money to give to us to put people like you in homes. But, you know, just like, you know, we all read the papers, you know, so all this money was floating around, as they say, the dream keepers money, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars went where? I'm from Bayview Hunters Point. I didn't get a dime of it. Kevin Epson's from Bayview Hunters Point. He didn't get a dime of it. Yeah,
Right.
didn't get a dime of it. Your mayor, London Breed.
All righty. So thank you so much, Mr. Beasley. We really appreciate
Thank you.
being
Thanks
here
for
at
having
the
me.
library.
Step over to the table, sign the autograph books, and good job, man.
Right, books for sale over here. You can also check it out at the library.
Let's give them that.
You want me to just-
You ask tough questions like me.
What's your book?
We don't flip the camera around. We still live. This is Ben, and let me do camera.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
For story, you know, I'm the baby. I'm gonna do a picture story.
That's a Bayview presents We're gonna get around, go back live a little bit later.
I know. So I love that that we are where we are. Yeah. It's only God.
Yeah.
I agree.